The early 1950s, post-World War II. Western Europe, particularly Germany, was busy rebuilding its once thriving, but now devastated industrial base. Beckman Instruments, having struggled through the war years, was now enjoying stellar growth, doubling sales in just 2 years. Sensing an industrial renaissance that would require new and improved electronic instrumentation, the company founder, Dr. Arnold O. Beckman, focused on sales opportunities outside of the United States. But as sales increased, so did the complications, particularly in Europe.
We were having problems with currency exchange and also the delays in shipping replacement parts over and things. We thought we could give much better service to our European customers if we had a headquarters over in Europe.
The solution was, at the very least, to add a distribution facility in Europe, if not a full production facility. Beckman had many options: England, Scotland, Denmark, but Germany won out.
Well, originally we thought we'd go to England because of the similar to the language, but the Labour government was in power at that time, and when we saw some of the restrictions they were putting on business, we said no way. And I had a feeling at that time that the German chemical industry was going to come back. And inasmuch as our instruments were primarily for the chemical industry, I thought that was the logical place to put our plant.
Thus began a seemingly endless odyssey through German and American red tape to become the first manufacturing plant established in Munich, although Frankfurt was Dr. Beckman's first city of choice.
Working on the advice of our bank, and they had a branch in Frankfurt, but they didn't have any down in Bavaria. Well, I went over there and talked to the German authority, said we'd like to put a plant over here, and he said, fine, you can do that, but you're going to have to expect opposition from the existing domestic German company like Zeiss, Leitz, Leybold, and so. So we went out to Bonn, to the capital, and they said, and this is typical we found with German, they'll tell you what your problem is, then they'll often tell you how to solve it. So I said, you'll have this problem, but if you'd be willing to go down to Bavaria, you could overcome that, because Bavaria is a very powerful state. It's sort of the Texas of Germany, and the Bavarian, if you can get the approval of the Bavarian Minister of Economics, and say he would override the opposition from Zeiss and Leitz and so on. So that's why we went down to Munich.
With the help of Dr. Uda Schaller, a representative with the German-American Trade Promotion Office, and an attorney named Herr Dr. Bastian, the wheels were set in motion.
We went to the Bayerische Vereinsbank in Germany, said, here, we need the name of a lawyer because we want to establish a business down there. And they said, we got just the man for you, Herr Dr. Bastian. He was the first German lawyer allowed to resume his practice after the war by the American occupation forces. And we checked that, and down there, and they said, that's right. And he did that because he showed he was not a Nazi by showing his membership card in the Communist Party.
To simplify the process of establishing a new company in Germany, Herr Dr. Bastian suggested that he and his secretary form a corporation that would later be purchased by Beckman Instruments.
And that had a requirement that you could form that with only 20,000 marks total capital, of which only 1/4 had to be paid in. That was only, and that's only $1,250. And so we made the decision then that we would put in that capital in the official Deutsche Mark currency. There were two currencies then, the block currency. You could get about twice as many block marks for dollars as you could the official. But we thought that for that small amount, we better curry the favor of the official German authorities. That worked out well, so we incorporated then for $1,250.
And thus the search began for a location.
The first building was occupied by an accordion manufacturer from East Germany, and things were not going well, so he allowed us to lease about 1/4 of the building from him, and that's where we started.
The site was secured, and Beckman employees in the United States prepared to ship parts to Munich for assembly. Unfortunately, Herr Dr. Bastian's involvement proved to be an unexpected roadblock.
When we came back to this country, we had to get approval from the State Department to send materials over there. Well, they looked on the record, and this is in the McCarthy period, and nobody dared to come out and say, well, we think you have a communist on your staff over there. So nothing happened, and week after week went by, and finally I went over to Germany again, and through my friend, Frau Dr. Jutta Schaller, who was president of the German-American Chamber of Commerce, she was able to find what the problem was. And so we went to her, Dr. Bastian, and said, I'm sorry, but the Americans think you're a communist, and we'll have to dispense with your services.
Finally, in 1953, Beckman Instruments GmbH was officially born. 4 employees working in old barracks, sharing space with an accordion factory. Not long after, with international sales booming, plans were devised to expand the operation. This required more office and manufacturing space. Construction began in 1955 on Frankfurter Ringstraßen.
Now, the main thing I recall about the problems we had in building was getting enough materials. For example, we couldn't get enough bricks from one supplier to have uniform colored bricks. So you look at the wall, there's 3 or 4 different areas of different colored bricks because we had to go to different brick suppliers to get enough bricks to make the wall. Things are that tight.
During excavation for the site, workmen unearthed a rather unsettling reminder of the war years.
8 Minuten brachte der Mann ohne Nerven, dann wurde 2,5 Center Bomber entschärft. That means 8 minutes was needed by the man without nerves to defuse the 250-pound bomb.
Nearly completed, the site was dedicated, toasted, and celebrated. In December of 1956, 300 engineers, technicians, and production workers moved into the new 20,000 square meter plant. Short on help, but full of enthusiasm, plant manager Harold Zander and vice president Ed Chernus carried in their own belongings. Soon, the Munich operation was manufacturing pH meters, spectrophotometers, ultracentrifuges, and many other instruments sold by the Beckman organization. The site served as the company's international distribution center, and it housed the field headquarters for a large foreign dealer organization with more than 130 representatives in 54 countries.
Well, we had our sales force and our customer service activity, which is very important because keeping our instruments in perfect operating condition is very important, because if the instrument isn't working well, it's no value. So we've always insisted on having fine service, and spare parts stores also, so we could get spare parts immediately instead of waiting to ship them across the Atlantic.
By 1957, with the Munich operation in full swing, sales outside of the United States grew to 1/10 of the company total. As the years flew by, Munich proved to be a critical component in Beckman's quest to become a truly international force. Today, well over half of the company's sales are outside of the United States. Germany holds a special place in the heart of the 93-year-old company founder.
And we had the Germans tell us we didn't know how to spell our name because we had only one N. Beckman now has 2 N's on the name over there. Well, I tell them when our grandparents came over in 1854, they lost an N going across the Atlantic Ocean, so we had only one N.
Beckman Instruments GmbH represents the oldest and perhaps the proudest of 18 international subsidiaries. The entire company of 7,000 employees sends its congratulations to the German subsidiary, celebrating 40 years of success in the instrument business. And Dr. Beckman adds his own special message.
Ich sende Ihnen den herzlichen Grüße zum 40er Jahr der Firma Beckman in Deutschland. Ich wünsche Ihnen allen viel Erfolg für die Zukunft.